Okay, let's talk about West Side Story. Now, West Side Story was kind of like the Oklahoma for this new theatrical generation. It was the first real collaboration of our big three that we talked about last time. It was a show that challenged the American musical theater and theater in general about the topics that could be discussed, the way the story could be told. Just like Oklahoma was kind of the start of the book musical, West Side Story is almost the start of the concept musical, but not quite. It's still a narrative, it's still a cohesive story, but they are taking way more chances in the way that that story is being presented. So let's go through this step by step. So first of all, as I said, one of the first major collaborations by our big three. It was directed and choreographed by Jerome Robbins. Music, so the score is by Leonard Bernstein, who you remember did the music for Fancy Free and On the Town, which Jerome Robbins was also involved with. Lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. He was actually brought in to help with the lyrics. He was not originally attached to the program, but Oscar Hammerstein kind of pushed him over towards it. And produced by Hal Prince. So you see the first real collaboration of these three titans. It is a modern, or modern for the time, telling of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. However, as opposed to them being star-crossed lovers of rival families, they are members of two different street gangs. Tony, who is our Romeo stand-in, is a former leader and member of the street gang, the Jets. And Maria is the sister of Bernardo, who is the leader of the Puerto Rican street gang, the Sharks. And you can kind of guess where that comes from and what goes into it. Oddly enough, the original story for this, the original title was actually East Side Story, and the story was actually going to be a Christian and a Jew marrying. However, there was a play coming out that exact same year that had almost that exact plot, so they switched it up. So how does this story shake up the American musical? Several ways. Mainly, this show is a dance show. The action, the violence, it is all told through dance. Every single number is a dance number. You remember back when we first started talking about musicals, and I mentioned, a dance number was something that was when you stopped everything and just showcased someone's dancing. Well, they took what Agnes DeMille had done in Oklahoma and saying that no, dancing can actually express the character and help further the story, and said, well, we're going to go one better with that and have dancing all throughout this musical. There is no dance number in this show. They're all dance numbers. And again, this is characters that you would not think of doing ballet moves. These are street gangs, thugs, which is another thing that this show did, which was unusual. It talked about problems that were going on in the real world, things like gang violence, prejudice against immigrants. Okay, these were major topics. Little sidebar here, I talked about how Jerome Robbins was not well beloved by his cast. So aside from just the demands he put on them physically and the paces he put them through to make them learn the various dances, and when you see some of the clips presented with this video, you'll see the precision in those dances. But he did some pretty cruel psychological things to his cast as well. He would insist that the cast members who were playing the two different street gangs didn't associate, which isn't that unusual. A lot of shows that have warring companies or warring families tend to self-segregate. It's just something that kind of happens. But he would go the extra distance and stir the pot. He would go to one member of the cast and tell them that one of the other members, someone playing a character in the opposite gang, was talking trash about them or had said this about them, and then he'd go to the other gang member and tell them the exact same thing about the other person. So he would literally try to start fights within his cast to get the emotion he wanted. So yeah, he was, again, not not the nicest guy in the world. Genius, but not the nicest guy. Now, again, I said that this is kind of this generation's Oklahoma, but where it differs very strongly from Oklahoma was in the reception. Oklahoma came out and was an immediate smash, and everything immediately shifted to meet that new criteria. West Side Story came out, and while the reaction was generally good, people also just didn't know what to make of it. They didn't know what to make of a musical where one of your characters dies in the end. There's no happy ending here. You know? They didn't know what to make of all the dancing. It premiered September 26, 1957, ran for 732 performances, which is a decent showing, but it got slaughtered at the Tony Awards that year, where it didn't win anything, and the more traditional musical, The Music Man, took all of the awards. Now, as is the case with unquestionable classics and things that take chances or are ahead of their time, history eventually circled back around on West Side Story. And gradually, Broadway started to accept this new form of storytelling, and mostly due to the persistence of the big three, who would go on to do a lot of shows in this mold.